Yo, what's up guys? You got pokeaim here with another Pokemon Sword and Shield video. Now this video will be discussing the top 14 Pokemon that I believe, I believe these are the top 14 Pokemon, right? But these are the top 14 Pokemon that will be returning to Pokemon Sword and Shield. Again, this is my opinion. However, if you do consider this type of video a spoiler, right? I'm not going to show any new Pokemon, but I will be showing old Pokemon that are returning to the game. If you do consider that a spoiler, do not watch this video. Otherwise, feel free to listen to my opinion and let me know what you guys think. There are definitely a lot of Pokemon that I'm missing, and 14 is just such a weird number, but I didn't want to do top 10, right? So anyway, the first, or number 14 of the video right now, we have Snorlax. Now, Snorlax is definitely a giant threat when it comes to VGC in terms, and I'll be talking in terms of VGC, but mainly singles, because I'm pretty inexperienced in the VGC tier. I played a few matches, a good amount. I played in a few tournaments, but I'm not as experienced in the VGC meta as I am in the standard meta. But Snorlax is a really cool Pokemon because I think that it's always going to be good, right? It's never going to be bad, right? Especially with the lack of fighting types that are returning into Pokemon Sword and Shield, and a lot of counters as well. A cursed Snorlax is always going to be a solid Pokemon because once this thing starts cursing up with its base 160 HP and also its base 110 special defense, once you're boosting that base 65 defense and your offensive power, it becomes a threat that's hard to take down. Not to mention the thick fat ability makes it even better versus fire and ice types. But a standard cursed Lax, of course, and then you have the cursed Recycle set. I think this is going to be really strong as well because it's going to be a lot harder to deal with due to the lack of counters in specific Pokemon in the tier. No Celesteela, no Skarmory is pretty interesting for Snorlax too. Don't have to worry about being Leech Seeded down or being Whirlwinded out. But we do have Snorlax right here, and of course VGC, you guys already know how dominant at times Mimilax was, or even just Snorlax plus a partner that helped it out. Something like Persian, Alolan Persian, I knew was ran with Snorlax back in VGC, as well as Curselax. Number 13, I have Gyarados. Now, I think that Gyarados is not going to be the best, but I think it's going to be really nice in terms of just Intimidate, right? In VGC, you would switch around and get that Intimidate off because you don't really have to think too much about Stealth Rock, but of course in singles, Stealth Rock is a thing. And while a lot of Pokemon are gone from the metagame, 2 or even 3 Pokemon are still surviving that kind of Gyarados doesn't like, and those Pokemon are Rotom Wash, Ferrothorn, and Toxapex. But Toxapex is kind of dealt with by maybe sub-Dragon Dance sets with leftovers and Earthquake. Even if it hazes you, eventually you'll either power through it with Earthquakes or crit it, or you'll be able to use sub to avoid burns and status from like Toxic. But also Rotom is going to be a lot harder for Gyarados to deal with, which is why I don't believe that Gyarados will be a top 10 threat, but I think it will be a giant threat in general. But being one of the premier bulky waters, and Gyarados is relatively bulky, I do think that Dragon Dance does make it a threat. And of course, even in VGC form, I'm not sure what exactly will be allowed, but you know, a Waterfall, Earthquake, Dragon Dance, Protect set, or maybe like an Ice Fang or anything like that. One of the biggest things for Gyarados is losing both Mega Evolution and the ability to Z move, right? So you can't use Z Bounce anymore to have that Z Fly to break through grass types, and obviously not being able to Mega Evolve and getting Mold Breaker, so you can't Earthquake or Rotom Wash. Number 12 on the list, I have Conkeldurr. And Conkeldurr is interesting because I think that it's a solid mon, and obviously with a lot of faster, and a lot of the fairies gone, right? All the Tapus are gone. So with Tapu Koko, Tapu Fini, Tapu Lele, and Tapu Bulu not being around, Conkeldurr, just fighting types in general, just really, really love that. So of course, I think a Flame Orb Conkeldurr will be incredibly threatening. And again, this is all just speculation based on what's not in the decks. It's not necessarily based on how the meta will be. I can't predict the meta when the meta hasn't started yet, but we're almost there. We're almost there. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. But yeah, obviously a Flame Orb Conkeldurr doesn't care about the burn. It gets that nice little Guts boost. This was a standard set back there. Also like a Life Orb Sheer Force set. Maybe you'll see Poison Jab because there is still some fairy types around. A big one that comes to mind is Clefable. So maybe you'll see a Poison Jab with Sheer Force, and that does 2-hit KO Clefable as well. And of course, Assault Vest Conkeldurr can still be very, very threatening. Next up, we have Gengar. Now, I think that Gengar enjoys the fact that a ton of Pokemon are gone, right? 2 that come to mind that Gengar really enjoys are Tornadus Therian form and Greninja, whether it be Ash or Protean Greninja. Gengar always had a solid speed tier, And just those were two mons that could come in on either it stabs or just takes a hit and threaten it out with either knockoff or dark pulse respectively. But in a limited dex, and Gengar's base 130 special attack and base 110 speed and good dual stab plus coverage, right? Ghost and Poison is nice when you have Focus Blast coverage. I think Taunt Gengar can be incredibly deadly as a stall breaker, or even like a Choice Scarf tricking set, or even the sub Pain Split set with maybe Shadow Ball, Sludge Wave, or Sludge Bomb over Focus Blast. But I like that Gengar can be a massive threat, though I do have it at number 11 because I do think that there is a potential better taunt Pokemon, and we'll get into that a little bit later on this list. Of course, losing Levitate is kind of bad for Gengar in this metagame because while Landorus, Gliscor, and Garchomp are no longer in the meta, Excadrill is still there. And of course, even if it did have Levitate, it would still have to worry about Mold Breaker Excadrill. But either way, I think that Gengar is going to be a pretty big top threat. And next up is Weavile. Weavile is just a good Pokemon, right? Weavile is... it's pretty one-dimensional, right? You'll usually almost see it always Choice Band, maybe an occasional Choice Scarf set with Foul Play. Though I don't know if Choice Scarf is going to be necessary, considering you don't need to Revenge Kill Mega Alakazam anymore. But a Choice Band set with Knockoff, Icicle Crash, Pursuit, Ice Shard, you can't really go wrong. You can maybe use Low Kick on this set over Ice Shard now that, again, a lot of the ground flyings and the 4-time weaknesses are gone, right? Landorus, Gliscor, Garchomp, they ain't there anymore, so you don't necessarily need Ice Shard to hit like Scarf Landorus, so maybe a low kick set could work. But besides that, I think Weavile is just too good of a Pokemon, even though it's really basic in what it does, to not be better, right? Like, I think that 9 times out of 10, a Weavile will do more than a Gengar in a game just because of its high speed tier and the fact that Knockoff is no drawback. Next up, we have Mew. Now, Mew is my number 9. Now, you might be thinking, well, Mew learns like every TM and HM in the game. Why isn't HM don't even exist? But Mew learns every TM in the game. Why wouldn't Mew be higher in every move tutor? You're right, but Mew is a Pokemon that's only as good as the metagame allows it to be, and it's a Pokemon that just kind of adapts to the metagame. I don't think Mew is ever considered a top tier threat, and I think the only reason we actually have Mew is because of the Pokeball Plus. They said something about getting a Pokeball Plus, and you can have it in your Sword and Shield with that. It has to be like a new one, or you can transfer it from home later, which is still kind of annoying, the fact of that. But obviously, a lot of Mew sets, Mew can, like I said, basically adapt to the metagame. If strong physical fighting types are running around, you might see a defensive Taunt, Will-O-Wisp, Soft-Boiled, Psychic type set, right? If the metagame is decently slow because certain Pokemon have been banned, or maybe certain team styles are running around, team compositions, maybe a Nasty Plot Psychic, Aura Sphere, Fire Blast type of set could be running around. Or Mew could even be a defog supporter depending on how many Pokemon you have there. I have Mew decently high on the list just because of the fact that it's just one of those mons that it's good, but it's only as good as the meta allows it to be. Whereas other Pokemon are kind of like I'd even put it up below like Gengar or even below Weavile because they're Pokemon that will always do something, whereas Mew is like sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. I don't know. Rotom Wash is the number 8 on my list, and obviously I think Rotom is just a Pokemon that's overall going to be solid. The fact that Excadrill is in the tier and Sand teams are probably going to be relatively common makes Levitate Rotom Wash incredible. Being able to Volt Switch, Hydro Pump, Pain Split, Will-O-Wisp, potentially Defog if it still gets it in this game. I'm not sure how move tutors are going to work with this game, or I'm not sure of all the move tutors in the game, but of course, even in VGC, you might see some Protect, Will-O-Wisp, Thunderbolt, Hydro Pump sets, maybe Electro Web running around. But Rotom is just a good all-around Pokemon. We might even be a metagame where Choice Scarf or Choice Specs Rotom can come back. Obviously, the current most popular set of Rotom Wash in OU is Electrum Z, but with no Z moves coming back, not sure if Rotom will be appreciating that. But I think that one thing that Rotom does appreciate is while it does have great defenses, right? 107, right? Special defense and defense. It doesn't have great HP, but Dynamaxing might solve that. So you might be in a situation where, I don't know the exact count, but you have like a physically defensive Rotom versus their Mold Breaker Excadrill, and you Dynamax to get that HP boost. You live the Earthquake. Again, Mold Breaker lets them hit you with Earthquake. It negates your Levitate, and you actually survive it and get to Hydro Pump off the Excadrill. So that could be a really interesting thing. And I think that Dynamaxing just makes defensive Pokemon. Obviously, it makes offensive Pokemon better too, especially because it doesn't matter what item they hold. You can Dynamax even if you're holding an item, which is what kind of makes it crazy. Like we're all like, oh man, is this going to be broken for Pokemon? It's not going to be broken. But I think that Rotom is going to be one of the mons that you might low-key see Dynamaxing a good amount, at least in that type of situation, just because it's already bulky and you give it more HP because of Dynamaxing, which we still have no idea if that's like the full limit. I think it's like 50%. We don't even know if that's like the full limit. It's just a mon that gets better. Number 7 on the list is Clefable. Clefable is just one of those mons, and I talked about it in the OU Pokemon returning. But Clefable is that Pokemon that really lives by the the life finds a way type of thing. It's just a Pokemon that doesn't have the best stats, but it's always good in a metagame, whether it be a support set with Stealth Rock, Thunder Wave, and just healing up. Due to its Magic Guard ability, it doesn't have to worry about taking status or Stealth Rock or anything like that. Or if it's potentially a Calm Mind set. And Calm Mind really does adapt to the metagame as well, but better than Mew, just because of its Fairy typing and Magic Guard, it can actually pivot into a lot more bulkier Pokemon. So let's say Ferrothorn is on 9 out of 10 teams. Calm Mind Clefable might start running Fire Blast. Let's say Toxapex is there, and I'm probably just named 2 Pokemon that are going to be there on a lot of teams. You might start seeing a Calm Mind Stored Power Clefable set, or a Calm Mind Offensive Psychic Clefable set. And of course, there are also Unaware Clefable can still work too, with Wish Protect. I'm not sure on like the legality of all these moves as well going into Sword and Shield. I don't remember if Wish is like an egg move on Clef, or was that like the event move. I'm pretty sure it's just a level up. It's kind of hard because like when you look at Showdown, if you guys were on Pokemon Online back in the day, it actually showed you like how it got it, right? It would say egg, it would say level up, it would say Gen 3 event type of thing. So I feel like Clef just gets Wish naturally, but either way, a Wish Protect set with Unaware, still something we could see. Number 6 on my list has to be Tyranitar. Tyranitar is a Pokemon that has withstand time itself, right? And it's the sands of time, and it's just always been good. And I think in a metagame where Excadrill is here and there is no Landorus, Therian, Gliscor, Celesteela, we're definitely going to be seeing some combination of Tyranitar plus Excadrill. And Tyranitar is no slouch in itself, right? Choice Band Tyranitar hits incredibly hard. Crunch, Stone Edge, Pursue are all great. Being able to Pursue Trap Psychic types or Ghost types in the tier. And there is one that you guys will definitely see before it, quote unquote, before it potentially gets banned. And the last moveset could be Earthquake, maybe Fire Punch, Ice Punch, depending on what is random in the meta. Even like a Dragon Tail or some random Outrage might even work, or Iron Tail. Iron Head, excuse me. Depending on like certain fairies and stuff like that. Of course, I do think the most common one we'll see though is a Smooth Rock variant, allowing it to give Excadrill maximum turns of sand. And though we might be seeing some stuff with Dynamax, this is another mon that is just so bulky overall, and Dynamaxing giving it just that extra hit, man. I could see like an even offensive Dragon Dance set being cool. And of course, like VGC would use something like Dragon Dance, Rock Slide, Crunch. Maybe you might see a Dragon Dance, Rock Slide, Crunch, Protect Weakness policy set in VGC. And if that Pokemon Dynamaxes and takes like an Earthquake from Excadrill or whatever, or Bulldoze or whatever they go for in the VGC meta, just imagine that, man. That mon's gonna take nothing because it's HP. Or it would be Drill Run actually. It'd be Drill Run, excuse me, not Bulldoze. I think it'd be Drill Run because that's a single target one. But that mon would take nothing. But even then, you could use like strats like that too. So I think that'd be pretty cool. And I'm so interested to see just how Dynamaxing is going to affect the metagame. Now, number 5, and I think this Pokemon is going to sneak up on a lot of people, and I think it's going to be really good, Hydreigon. And this has a lot to do with the same reason why Conkeldurr got better, but a ton of Fairy types are gone, right? A ton of Fairy types are gone. Chansey and Blissey are gone. So I think that a Taunt Life Orb Hydreigon is incredibly good because of its ability to deal with Pokemon like Mew, unless it's running like Dazzling Gleam, a Rotom. It can run Focus Blast, Slice Superpower for Tyranitar, right? It can stop Toxapex from recovering with Taunt, and it has longevity and Roost. The last moveset could be whatever it wants, man. Flash Cannon, Fire Blast, Earth Power, Dragon Pulse. Just really does depend on the metagame. And I do think that Hydreigon is like low-key one of those mons that is just going to sneak up and actually be good. It has a pretty decent speed tier as well, especially with what's left. And of course, a choice spec set will always hit incredibly hard. And just the fact that there are no Tapus anymore, no Bulu, no Lele, no Coco, no Feeny. Hydreigon loves that so much. Of course, terrains can be summoned by Dynamax moves, and that might affect it as well, like a Misty Terrain going up or anything like that. Or just like in general, just not Misty Terrain, but like just in general things. I don't know how the metagame is going to be, but I just feel like Hydreigon just has a lot going for it, especially having that Levitate too, so it can even be like a defensive drill answer if necessary, and even like a Choice Scarf set could be running around. Number 4, Ferrothorn. It's kind of hard not to put Ferrothorn in top 5. Ferrothorn is a Pokemon that is going to be good no matter what. It has way too many good. It has good defenses and good SPDF. It has Leech Seed for recovery. It sets up spikes and Stealth Rock. Can knock you off. It's actually pretty strong with base 94 attack, and like it's a mon that it's not metagame defining. Actually, the next 3 Pokemon are metagame defining Pokemon, which is why they made top 3. But Ferrothorn is going to be incredibly hard to kill, I think. No Heatran running around, no offensive Z moves. Imagine Dynamaxing a Ferrothorn. Imagine Dynamaxing a Ferrothorn. You got like a Drain Punch Conkeldurr in front of you, right? And you need 1 layer of spike up. You at 40%, right? You need 1 layer of spike up in order to knock out not the Conkeldurr in front of you, because you can revenge kill the Conkeldurr in front of you with your something in the back, your Scorbunny in the back or whatever. Your Scorbunny evolution. I'm not gonna name the evolution, but your Scorbunny evolution in the back, right? But you're gonna lose the game because that one Pokemon in the back does survive. You Dynamax. You live that Drain Punch. You get that HP buff. You get out that little spike, and then you win the game because of it. And I think this is another mon that's just like, oh my gosh, this is gonna. Ferrothorn's just gonna be good, period, right? It's always good. It's almost unkillable. We might see some Leech Seed Protect sets, and it's gonna be annoying. It's gonna be annoying. A lot of its great, a lot of its best answers are just gone, right? Like, it deals with a lot of the OU meta. It deals with Rotom. It doesn't really care much about being burnt. It can deal with Clef, depending. It can deal with Drill, and it just Leech Seeds around the entire thing. So Ferrothorn easily deserves top 4. Number 3, and this is a metagame defining Pokemon in my opinion, and that has to be Excadrill. I've been talking about it the entire time, but I think that Excadrill is just a metagame defining Pokemon, and it is going to be a top threat in this. And just based on what we've seen, based on the amount of Pokemon gone, and even based on looking at some of the leaks, if I'm being honest, Excadrill is a metagame defining Pokemon. And what do I mean by that? I mean, it's a Pokemon that forces you to do a certain thing, right? When Pheromosa was in the OU tier, right? Let's look back at Sun and Moon. When Pheromosa was in the tier, what were Pokemon that were ran in order to deal with that? Alolan Marowak was something that was ran because it was a check to all of its high jump kicks, ice beams, bug buzzes, whatever, right? It's just, Excadrill is going to be this type of Pokemon that every team is going to need 1 or 2 answers for it, right? I think it's going to encourage Rotom Wash, and even then, like, yes, a Swords Dance, Earthquake, Iron Head set, and I left the last slot blank because it doesn't matter what it is. It could be Rabbit Spin, it could be Rock Slide, depending on what's ran. If there's, like, you know, anything like Volcarona running around or whatever it is, or anything like the Charizard that's ran around in itself. And I think that there's a lot of interesting things going for this too, because Excadrill also has like incredible HP and attack, right? And if you Dynamax, man, you go for that Dynamax ground move or the Dynamax one. And after a Swords Dance, right, this is something too that I think is really interesting. I feel like we'll see a lot of Excadrill Dynamax versus, like, let's say it's Excadrill out versus a Hippowdon, and I'm at +2, and I Dynamax, that way I can go for the stronger ground type attack versus Hippo. I feel like Hippo would also Dynamax too, that way I can eat the hit as well. Well, that's, like, I'm a little bit confused on how, like, the stuff works, because I know that you get the HP from Dynamaxing, and some of the moves are stronger, so I'm assuming it's like a combination of Megas and Z moves, right? But, like, yeah, I think that Excadrill is easily a metagame defining Pokemon, and as good as it was in Pokemon Black and White, where it got banned, then unbanned, then they banned Sand Rush, and they did all these things with it, I think it's going to come back, and obviously the OG, there's like some OG sets that are also just really good. Like the Choice Scarf set is just going to be really good with Mold Breaker, because I mean, you might think, okay, they have an Excadrill, I have my Rotom Wash, I'll deal with it. Nah, I got Mold Breaker, Earthquake, and we're good from right there. And of course, also the Focus Sash anti-lead set with Stealth Rock and Rapid Spin. That way, other people can't get up spin, and maybe like Rock Tomb type of thing could also be ran. And of course, I think this is a mon that is really easily in VGC. Number 2, I think a lot of you guys already knew which Pokemon it would be. Toxapex. This is another metagame defining Pokemon. This is a Pokemon that puts so many Pokemon out of commission just by existing, and because of its incredible defenses and incredible SPDF. And I've already, again, envisioned, I keep talking about Dynamax, but I've already envisioned like Toxapex versus an Excadrill, and you Dynamax your Toxapex, that way you live the Earthquake and just knock it out with Scald after. Like, it's just, of course, assuming the Excadrill has taken some damage, or even you burn it with Scald, things like that. But it's a metagame defining Pokemon. Having Regenerated, being able to pivot in on everything, getting up Toxic Spikes, maybe even Toxicking or going for Baneful Bunker, having Haze to stop setup, having Knockoff as well to get rid of items. It is just a metagame defining Pokemon, right? It's a mon that forces you to run certain Pokemon, and honestly, we have no idea how this meta is going to be again. This is me talking from speculation, what I know about these mons from the past, and I want to know your guys' thoughts as well. Like, let me know. There's a lot of Pokemon that are not on my list. Like, take Lucario, for instance. I think that has a shot of being a top tier Pokemon again. Like, and it hasn't been a top tier Pokemon since Gen 4. So, yeah, this is just a Pokemon that is going to be incredibly frustrating. As always, though, it's always been like that. Last but not least, I think that a lot of you guys also know what my number one is, and I don't think this Pokemon is even going to stay in OU in this generation, but that is Aegislash. Aegislash is what I described earlier, or what I described in my video about Ubers as what I feel to be a perfect Pokemon. It is a Pokemon that it can deal with almost all of its answers. Obviously, it depends on the sets in itself, but I think that not only that, but the combination of King Shield and you know, its ability stance change, going into defensive forms, going back and forth between defensive and offensive Aegislash is super good. Being able to live hits, has great bulk, and then has the great attack after. Obviously, the 50-50s of lowering your attack and you trying to knock it out with a physical attack or it's surviving. Swords Dance variants could be threatening. Sub-toxic sets, maybe with Flash Cannon or anything, could be cool too in order to beat like dark types that otherwise threaten Aegislash. And then, of course, like you have maybe a King Shield special attacking set, or even like the Spadef Uber set that we used to be able to deal with Xerneas. Though Xerneas is not going to be in the new game. But yeah, I think Aegislash deserves number one. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Excadrill, Toxapex, or Aegislash. I'm pretty sure Aegislash, unless they nerf King Shield, and unless it's like, unless the new Pokemon are crazy, and I'm talking like crazy, I think that Aegislash is going to be a Pokemon that's just going to be banned to Ubers again. And I wouldn't be surprised if there is just so little to deal with, maybe Juro and Toxapex to a point that they're actually suspected as well. Of course, who knows? It's really hard to suspect defensive Pokemon when it comes to Toxapex. It's very, very, very hard to suspect defensive Pokemon, because how do you consider it broken, right? It's not. Is it unhealthy? Is it actually unhealthy? Is it actually broken for the meta? Who knows? It's different when it's an offensive threat, because an offensive threat you can argue, all right, well, this Pokemon is killing every single Pokemon I send out and has no switch-ins, and every single time it comes out, you win the game, or you lose the game based on 50-50s in Aegislash's case. It's really hard, but who knows? Let me know your guys' thoughts, of course. Let me know what other videos you guys want to see up until Pokemon Sword and Shield. I was thinking about talking about the new TMs that are pretty freaking great, if I'm going to be honest. Like, some of them are incredible. I'm not going to be talking about any of the new Pokemon until officially revealed, which will be, they come out Friday, and then my moveset guides and Showdown Lives, and Wi-Fi battles might take up to a week to start, just because I got to get Pokemon ready and everything, and I also have to find people who can battle me. That's another thing, and I'm going to be at A-Drive's house for the 252 stream, which would be a lot of fun. You guys should definitely watch, but yeah, hope you guys all enjoyed. Feel free to subscribe and let me know your thoughts. I will see you guys next time. Goodbye, my friends.